Try to imagine you're running towards Canada. And then halfway, you're like taking a little break. You're like, okay, check GPS. Which direction do I go? Ready? Go!
Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another episode of What's in a Performance, the series where I take scores, performances, videos, break them down, analyze them, to pull apart a little of what our favorite pianists are doing behind the scenes. Today we do have a little bit of a special episode, if I do say so myself, because for the first time on What's in a Performance, I will not be analyzing someone else. Instead, I will be the one who's being analyzed. That's right, my own playing will be reviewed, analyzed, roasted, if you will, by the one and only Meeks Duo.
Hi everyone! We're the Meeks Duo. We play four hands piano music. And if you're interested, come check out our channel at the Meeks Duo. And we release a music video every week. And recently we've discovered the fun of doing anime music, and Scott does the arranging of these music.
Yeah, lots more to come.
Yeah, so come check us out.
This is the first of two videos that we did together. Today we're just going to be looking at my Moonlight Sonata from my live stream, and next time we'll be looking at one of the anime pieces from my live stream, so stay tuned for that. There's a bit of a special announcement at the end of this video, so please stick around for that. And with all that being said, let's get to the video. I honestly feel like, as I said earlier, that this is like the lesson after the recital. Right, like where the teacher's like, okay, you did well. You go get your ice cream, and then we'll talk about it next week when we get there. So I'm quite interested to hear what you guys have to say about my playing this.
Yeah, we can just like give you ideas, new ideas. So I think right away, your control of tempo and sound is admirable. Actually, we were curious, you were saying your fans were telling you you have a different interpretation.
The comment that I got a lot was that my runs were very, very dry. No, I feel like that's just the way that I was always taught Beethoven.
Well, he did mark the staccatos in the left hand throughout. Yeah, right hand doesn't have any legato mark, which he could have done, right? Do you consciously not do a crescendo?
This was actually one of the more interesting master classes that I remember having as a kid. It was, I think, Beethoven's Sonata in E. I remember the teacher asking me, do you like getting surprises? Like, have you ever woken up to a present under your pillow from your parents? And I remember saying, no, because my parents have never done that. But he's like, captured that sort of moment when you see fortissimo or sforzandos and like, like fortes and stuff in Beethoven.
Definitely a good attitude. And I would suggest anytime you, especially Beethoven, because he does this a lot, where he doesn't mark anything. And a lot of the time it's where you want to crescendo, like he's making you go against your instinct. And I think one way to prevent yourself from doing crescendo is think the opposite, think diminuendo. So every time you're going up, think diminuendo. Then the sforzando will stick out even more. So don't think flat, think the opposite, think diminuendo. And it'll probably end up being around the same. I have two more suggestions. Where do you think your first arrival point is in all this?
Probably this C minor chord here.
I agree with that. I would take a bit more time. It felt like you kind of bypassed it, and I think it can be more powerful if you take a little time to arrive stronger. You know, one more thing, you were talking about surprises. So in this section, where do you think the first surprise is? Or just in the first page?
That feels like a trap. I want to say the first sforzando, but the way you phrased it makes me think it's something else.
No, I mean, yeah, actually, that is true. But after the first one, it's not so surprising, right? Because he does it the same every time. I would say it's the fermata, and I think every fermata you should treat like you forgot what's coming next. The way you play it is too matter of fact, and instead you might want to consider. Like, just hold it, and hold it until you become uncomfortable, because the point of the fermata is to make the listener uncomfortable and wonder what's coming next. All right, so again, very good. What I would suggest is just be more dramatic. Again, you can take more time.
One thing I remember I was told when there's sudden change, especially something loud going to a sudden quietness, is you want to imagine the sound traveling and you want to give it a bit of time to travel before you play that quiet part. Because otherwise the first note, let's say if you're in a hall, when the sound is still like the acoustic, it's still going, then usually the first quiet sound is going to be eaten.
Would you drop the tempo for this section then too?
It might happen unintentionally, but probably not.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I think your opening tempo is actually perfect because I think people tend to play the opening too fast because it's easier than what comes later. I think those tempos should match.
Yes, vindication.
Yeah,
I like this.
I think you shouldn't go too fast. Another part where I think you can be more dramatic is the actually it's the first fortissimo in the whole piece. That A major chord. I remember one thing my teacher said, you can't just play for your dinner, you have to play for your life. So like every marking, everything, give your whole being to it. So don't just play a chord, but like as much as you can.
So how do I prevent that from getting harsh then?
One of the things you want to consider is the level of sound. So you want to consider what gives the illusion that it's stronger, but you're not actually pounding the piano. So what you want to do is go into the piano, pretend somebody, pretend you're Scott. I just there you go.
Yeah, but you gotta use your whole upper body.
Speaking of the back, one thing I was gonna mention is when we were watching your video, we noticed that a lot of the time you play with your neck. So you want to watch that out. While you're doing the neck thing, that means you're not really using your back. So it's pretty much like the way I was pushing Scott, like show him your back. So like here, and you want to feel like somebody just like pushing.
Not just this.
Not just the neck.
Huh, I didn't even notice that thing about my neck. I was just like, okay.
Gonna pause there too. What are you gonna say?
So I think your control of all the chords is really good. I would be careful about consistency though. Like it was kind of wavering, it was going up and down, but instead you can keep it really quiet and then huge crescendo.
I was gonna say something similar, but in a different approach. So here's the thing: when we rehearse, we often have different opinions, but it's normal. So you can explore. So one thing about crescendo is when you see the word crescendo, you want to drop first.
Have you heard the expression crescendo means quiet and diminuendo means loud and rit means fast and accelerando means slow? When you see the word crescendo, that's the low point.
Yeah.
And when you see diminuendo, that's the high point where you start to get soft. Especially with Beethoven, because like I was saying, he's constantly making you go against your instinct. Okay, we can skip the repeat.
Because I made the mistakes, I almost wanted to skip the repeat.
Oh.
But then I took the repeat and I was like, this is my time for vindication.
One thing you learn from experience is don't highlight the mistakes. Just instead focus on what you did well. And everyone makes a mistake. And the mistake is overblown in the performer's own mind. That's totally normal. But then you just have to remind yourself that the other people didn't really care. That arrival on F sharp, I would take some time there. One thing to consider is, did you know that the pianos in Beethoven's time stopped at F, the low F?
I had no idea.
Yeah, so when you're playing that F sharp minor chord, it's like you're at the extreme of the piano.
Hey, finally, I paused. I was trying to observe this whole time, and I think it could be the camera angle, so you may want to explore a little bit, but from both angles, I tend to see that you raise your left shoulder sometimes. So it makes me think that maybe when you're playing, your elbow is kind of attached. Well, not really attached. I mean, you can see it's not attached, but it's kind of like locked.
Okay, so it's a bit tense.
A bit, yeah.
You say?
I think there's a specific kind of figure. Then you start seeing your left shoulder going up a little bit. Even at the beginning, like you start seeing these pendants tensing up a little bit. Somehow you start raising. You have this. So you can try pretending you're holding like a ball, and then just roll the ball left, right, left, right, left, right. Yeah. So try it on the piano like this, and then feel your
Sounds
wrist.
like Tobin methodology.
Feel your wrist movement left and right, but wrist not too low though, because then you can't really roll.
Okay, so like up here.
Yeah.
Almost?
So then when you have your fingers out, it's left, right, left, right. But all of these is like coming from the art. Yeah, you barely need any movement.
I feel like with this, it's easier for me to do it with thinking about it, like with lifting fingers. But like once I start rotating, it gets a little bit trickier.
Don't worry, it'll only take you 20 years.
Yeah, it's
I see what you mean about the neck thing, though. Like, totally. Like, I think, since when I was a child, I would play, like, really stiff. And it wasn't until, like, I was, like, older in, like, 8th grade when I started loosening up a little that, like, it was never, like, a big thing, right? Like, where I was, like, moving my head a lot, right? But now, like, looking at myself playing where I feel like I'm sometimes, like, all over the place for no reason, it looks like it is, like, really moving, and it's, like, something that I never thought of before, like, how to engage, like, perhaps the upper back to help with some of the movements in, because I always feel like it's, like, I don't know, I've just never thought of using the upper back in such a manner.
Oh.
So,
Cool, yeah, then we're actually helpful, yeah. I wouldn't crescendo here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you want to stay, because before you have all these interesting things. This is a moment.
Yeah, it's another place where you feel like the music is building, so you just naturally want to get louder, but just try to hold back.
Yeah. I think that's precisely what happened.
Yeah. And remember, again, about surprise. So, you want to play it in a way that even you don't know that you're going back to the beginning.
Try to imagine you're running towards Canada.
Right,
and then halfway you're like taking a little break. You're like, okay, check GPS. Which direction do I go? Ready? Go!
Yeah. I have to make it by tonight. I have to keep going.
Like, take a break, take some water, and then, okay!
Yeah.
Listen to your nice right hand tone and then compare it with your left hand.
I know. I'm like...
Probably you're thinking equally, or maybe you're thinking even more right hand, because the right hand has more notes, but just try to really shift it down. I was teaching this to a student earlier this week, and
oh no.
I would just make a suggestion. If you play the first note of the chromatic scale with the left hand, it's so much easier. Like, have you tried that?
No, I've been sliding 1-1 this entire time.
Oh no.
I feel like my eyes have been opened.
Okay, and I think this is also too matter-of-fact. Like, you know the end is coming, but you have to play it in a way... Actually, another way to think of it is, imagine this is the premiere of the piece. No one has heard it before.
Okay.
And at this moment, Mine doesn't have rests in the right hand, which implies you're supposed to use 2 hands. Play these.
Oh.
Do you have rests?
Right. No, I don't.
Yeah, so I think that's a sign you're supposed to use. And it's much easier with 2 hands.
Yeah.
I was confused as to why the fingering was 1-5 and then 2-5, and I'm like,
oh, well, yeah.
I don't know how I can reach that, but I suppose I'll just go 1-5 and 1-4.
Right.
Thank you.
For the last 2 chords, remember, forte, all the arpeggios, I mean the broken chords, it's all forte. And then he writes fortissimo, so they gotta be different. Again, use the whole body, like for both of them.
I feel like I have to reconceptualize how I want to do this because I always bop the head forward.
Oh.
Now that I think
Okay,
about
imagine
it,
you're doing push-up.
like
Imagine you're doing push-up, but then all the strength go to the pinky. And then when you're, the moment when you press down, feel this a little bit. This.
I feel like I'm doing like dumbbell bench presses.
Oh yeah, you're going up.
down.
Oh,
Yeah,
actually, you're doing. You're going like up, and then
I'm
then
snatching.
you do, and then like this.
Yeah.
But I think that
The
loses
sound,
the power.
yeah, goes
Oh.
away.
I think what I was thinking was because it's staccato, I was doing like the pluck
Right.
to get the articulation.
Right.
You know, there are 2 ways to, well, more than 2 ways to play staccato. One's up, one's down.
Right.
So in this
Right.
case, I think it's a down staccato. And pretend you have wings. Your arms are your wings, and then your wings just flap down. Yeah, you can try that. Maybe
I've
that's
always, I guess now that I think about it, I've like for these things, except for with the exception of like like these ones where I have to push in, or like always done with the.
Right. I think my teacher taught me that too, but I don't do it.
Yeah. In my childhood, I was told.
I've been
pretend
duped
it's an
again.
iron.
Right. And you know
Okay.
the word staccato, it doesn't mean short. It doesn't mean jump. It means separated. And so
Oh, really?
I think everyone's taught the wrong thing. Yeah, composers are. It's just impossible to convey exactly what you want by writing. No matter how many things you write, it's impossible. So they just try their hardest.
Wow, I
Okay,
can't believe
well.
we actually went through. When we were listening to this, we're like, we don't know what we can say. It's so good. So, like, what?
I thought you were gonna say we have, there's so many things to say, we're not gonna get through it.
No.
Alright, and that about does it for this video. Big thanks again to Scott and Claire for coming on to this channel and for lending their expertise. I really appreciate the fact that you guys took the time to come sit down with me and go over my own playing, and it was a whole lot of fun. Yeah, it's very interesting to hear 2 people who are obviously much more experienced than me just pick apart what I'm doing, and to notice even habits that I had no idea that I was doing. It's only been pretty recently since I've started considering my playing from a more like bodily, like holistic sort of standpoint, and so seeing that put into practice with something that I worked on was incredibly helpful for me in conceptualizing a lot of that, and they are definitely things that I'll be working on moving forward. But if you haven't gotten enough of the Meeks Duo yet, fear not, because remember, they're coming back for another video to review my playing again. But not only that, special announcement, this week, Saturday, July 3rd at 9:30 p.m. EDT, Eastern Daylight Savings Time, the Meeks Duo will be joining me for a live Q&A on my stream. So if you would like to ask professional concert pianists, basically people who are way more qualified than me, anything about continued education in music, anything about what it looks like being a pianist today, you should definitely check out that stream and leave your questions down in the comment section. Again, that's this week, Saturday, July 3rd at 9:30 p.m. EDT. Different times, I guess, are posted here. And don't forget that the full-length version of this video that you just saw with more explanations and more demonstrations will be available on my Patreon as well. Which brings us to the end of this video, where I once again ask you to please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. If you would like to support the channel, please consider doing so on Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, or by getting WattKeys merch. Be sure to catch my live streams on Saturdays, where most of the time I will be answering your questions and reviewing your playing to help you get better. And sometimes I will be talking to my friends the Meeks Duo, or catch my monthly underrated streams where I check out underrated anime and classical pianists on YouTube. If you'd like to see more of my analysis on different people's playings, you should click right here. If you'd like to hear me play more piano, you should click right here. And until next time, everybody, peace.